This was not the sound of fireworks, not the hum of a late-night jet. In the stillness of Moscow's night, a strange vibration grew sharper, faster.
The war in Ukraine tonight, Russia is now reporting a major drone attack on Moscow.
Until the sky itself cracked open. 93 intruders, unseen and uninvited, rushed straight toward a city once thought untouchable. A flash lit the heavens. The ground shivered like an earthquake. Sirens wailed, lights vanished, and darkness was filled with footsteps and fear.
Air defense systems have intercepted Ukrainian drones, and this happened overnight.
Who dared to strike at the fortress heart of Russia? Was this a single warning, or the beginning of something larger? Tonight, Moscow learned that silence can shatter in an instant. For decades, Moscow stood like a fortress. The city was wrapped in layers of radar, missile batteries, and endless confidence. People believed nothing could touch it, that the war outside its borders would always remain far away. That belief ended in a single night. The swarm arrived with purpose. 93 drones, moving like a tide, tested every angle of the capital's defenses. Alarms rang as interceptors streaked upward, but the attackers kept coming. Some were destroyed in flashes of light. Others kept slipping through. Fireballs tore across the skyline. Shards of metal rained onto the streets below. Ordinary people who had gone to bed in peace woke to the sound of explosions. Windows shook, apartments rattled, and whole districts fell into darkness. For many, it was the first time they realized the front lines no longer stopped at Ukraine's edge. The war had reached them. On that night, Moscow lost more than its quiet. It lost the illusion of safety. The wall between myth and reality came crashing down. Russia had always pointed to its air defense network as proof of strength. The S-400 system was praised as one of the best in the world, designed to shoot down missiles and aircraft at long distances. The Pantsir units, stationed closer to the ground, were meant to deal with anything that slipped through. Together, they were called a shield over the capital, but the attack showed how fragile that shield could be. The S-400 was built to track large, fast objects flying high in the sky, not small drones skimming low and weaving in strange patterns. Pantsir crews tried to respond, but the targets came from so many directions that no single system could keep up. The result was confusion. Operators fired interceptor after interceptor, yet some drones still found their mark. The weakness wasn't only in the machines, but in the doctrine itself. Moscow's defenses were built for yesterday's threats, not today's reality. That night proved something no government statement could hide. Even the most advanced weapons can falter when the battlefield changes faster than the defenses around it. As the sky lit with fire, the city below fell into disorder. Flights that were scheduled to land were suddenly diverted hundreds of kilometers away. Passengers sat in airports with no answers, watching the boards turn red with delays and cancellations. Trains halted mid-journey. Some metro lines were shut without warning, leaving commuters stranded in darkened stations. On the streets, traffic froze. Sirens echoed while armored vehicles rolled into neighborhoods where children had played only hours earlier. Radar trucks and missile launchers were parked beside apartment blocks, a sight that left many stunned and unsettled. Moscow no longer looked like a safe capital, but a city under siege. Emergency crews rushed from one site to another, clearing debris, sealing off damaged areas, and tending to the injured. But the fear spread faster than the fires. People whispered in stairwells and scrolled through phones, looking for news, looking for reassurance. In a single night, daily life had been ripped apart. The comfort of distance was gone. The war was no longer on television. It was outside their doors.
Overseas, Russia hit Ukraine with yet another massive drone attack.
Ukraine saw the breach not as a single success, but as a path forward. The strategy was clear. Don't just fight along the front lines. Strike deeper and force Russia to defend everywhere at once. Each drone that slipped through the shield carried more than explosives. It carried a message that no part of the country was beyond reach. Targets were chosen with care. Energy plants that powered factories, railway hubs that moved supplies to the battlefield, command centers where officers directed operations, even symbolic sites, government buildings, or landmarks became part of the plan. The point was not always to destroy them completely, but to prove they were vulnerable. With every strike, fear and doubt grew stronger than the sound of the blasts. Videos of fire and smoke spread online within minutes, breaking through censorship and reaching ordinary Russians. The war could no longer be hidden. This was a campaign not only of drones and explosions, but of psychology. To weaken the belief in safety, to remind Russia that no fortress is beyond erosion when pressure is applied again and again. The attacks did not stop with Moscow. Soon, drones began reaching deeper into Russia, hitting fuel depots, railway lines, and power stations. Each strike seemed designed to disrupt not only the war machine, but also the rhythm of daily life. Where trains once carried soldiers and ammunition, now wreckage blocked the tracks. Where factories once hummed, silence followed power outages. Ukraine mixed different types of drones to press its advantage. Long-range models traveled hundreds of kilometers to reach refineries or bases. Smaller FPV drones darted close to the ground, weaving through radar gaps that larger systems struggled to detect. Together, they created a challenge no single defense could handle. Russia tried to respond by shifting air defense units from the front lines to the interior. But this choice came with a price. The more batteries stationed to guard oil facilities or rail hubs, the fewer remained to protect troops on the battlefield. Every move revealed the same truth. To defend everything is to weaken everywhere. And Ukraine continued to search for the cracks. One of the most daring strikes came against the refinery near Sochi. It was no small outpost, but a key hub that sent oil exports through the Black Sea. Dozens of drones were launched in waves, each programmed to target different points of the facility. Storage tanks erupted in flames, pipelines burst, sending black smoke high into the night sky. The damage was more than physical. This refinery fueled both civilian life and the military. With its operations halted, trains carrying fuel to Crimea slowed, and commanders at the front were forced to ration supplies. Aircraft and tanks, once free to move, now faced limits. Russia scrambled to reroute convoys, but the alternative paths were longer and more exposed to attack. Repairs would take weeks, if not months. Insurance rates for tankers in the Black Sea rose overnight, showing how far the ripples of one strike could travel. For Ukraine, it was a statement. Even Russia's economic arteries could bleed, and even its strongest lifelines were within reach. The strain on Russia's armed forces grew heavier with every passing month. Units that once carried pride and confidence were slowly breaking apart. The 41st Army, once held up as a sign of power, had been reduced to fragments. Battalions disappeared, either destroyed in battle or merged with others just to survive. Tanks that had been called modern were left smoldering on muddy roadsides. Air power suffered as well. At the Marinovka Air Base, Ukrainian drones broke through defenses and struck directly at aircraft hidden in their shelters. The losses were severe. Fighters that once launched daily missions were reduced to twisted wreckage. Ground forces suddenly faced battles without reliable cover from above. To protect what remained, troops built improvised defenses out of sandbags, camouflage nets, and outdated radar. These measures looked desperate, and they often failed. The image of a confident superpower began to fade. Each loss revealed more than a weakness in equipment. It showed a system struggling to adapt to a new kind of war, one it had not prepared for. What unfolded was more than a series of strikes. It was a lesson about the changing face of war. For decades, nations believed strength came from building larger missiles, faster jets, and heavier tanks. But the battlefield revealed something different. Small, cheap, and flexible tools could bring those giants to their knees. Ukraine's approach showed that innovation matters more than sheer size. A drone costing a few $1,000s could force the launch of an interceptor worth millions. When repeated often enough, the imbalance became unsustainable. The message was clear: agility can outweigh brute force. For Russia, the failure to adjust quickly was costly. Old tactics, built for another era, left gaps that nimble opponents could exploit again and again. For the world, the strikes served as a warning. Future wars will not be won by the biggest arsenal, but by the side that adapts the fastest. Technology will keep evolving, but the true weapon is the ability to change before the enemy does. Every explosion leaves behind more than wreckage. It leaves fear, loss, and unanswered questions. The strikes on Moscow revealed how fragile even the strongest defenses can be, but they also reminded us of something deeper. War always reaches beyond the battlefield. It touches homes, families, and futures. Technology may change, weapons may grow sharper, but none of it creates lasting safety. True security comes only from dialogue and respect between nations. The lesson of these nights is not how to destroy more, but how to prevent destruction at all. That choice still belongs to us.